Guys, Asher Rachel Legends, welcome to the video. Glad to have you all here with me today, sending some love, some positive vibes your way, especially if you need them out there today, especially if you're going through something. Just know that it can and it will get better for you. Guys, today's going to be a fun video, I think. I did this video, 10 champs you should build with no speed. It did surprisingly well. A lot of people really enjoyed that video idea. And then a lot of people commented something like this in the comments. Love the channel, Ash. Been considering taking my fastest gear off of Arbiter, but I'm not sure who to give it to. I think a fastest champ tier list would be a cool video idea.
Oh, I am not giving it up.
So a lot of people wanted to see what are the best champions to build fast. Now, intuitively, you think, okay, well, like speed leads or speed boosters. Today, we're going to talk about all of my favorite choices, rare, epic, legendary, and even a couple mythicals on the list who are worthy of putting your best speed gear on, right? Unless you're speed tuning in PvE, I tend to reserve my very best speed gear, whether I'm progressing or whether I'm already in the end game, for a specific speed booster or two, or maybe a control champion. So we'll cover a variety of different types of champions. But first, just the basics. What are we looking for in terms of putting our best speed gear on who, right? And what types of speed gear should we be looking at? Really, when we talk about speed gear, there's a few sets, right, that we should notice. Number one, obviously, speed, right? I mean, speed is the OG, and it's still the best in terms of the sheer speed boost of 12%. Can't go wrong with triple speed sets on your speed booster, right? But there's also supersonic. Very, very good. You end up getting the speed, 20% speed on a 5-piece or 10% speed on a 3-piece. However, you can use your accessory to try to achieve that as well to get that 10% speed. Moreover, supersonic is very good because what happens if your best speed gear just isn't fast enough, not quick enough, and you get outsped? Well, supersonic gives you a really good fighting chance to take that initiative back, right? To take the speed lead position back in your favor, because it's going to fill this champion's turn meter by 2% for each buff on each enemy. So even if an Arbiter goes on the other team that's faster than you, you can get an 8% turn meter boost because of the increased attacks that she's going to be dropping, which allows you to hopefully recut the line and again take the initiative back on your side of the arena specifically. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be PvP focused, but it definitely applies to other areas. I'm going to include some PvE specialists on the list as well. Sonic, very, very good. Additionally, I'm a big fan of Righteous gear. It's hard to get. It's a gear artifact pass or whatever the heck set, but it has speed and resist. Very, very good. Divine speed is very good as well. Divine speed gives you a 12% speed and a 15% HP shield for 3 turns. So yeah, that's definitely like kind of the granddaddy of the premium speed sets out there in divine speed. You could even go with something like a protection 3-piece. 3 pieces of protection, you can get a 12% speed bonus by just using 2
Say anything you want, just don't hit me.
of your artifacts in one of your accessories, right? And you get the extra resist and HP, and if you start stacking it, you can get even more speed as well. So protection is an underrated speedy set out there. What else? Perception is not bad, but it's generally not what we're going to be putting on our fastest champions, right? We really want that 10% plus speed metric. So those are some of my favorite speed sets for you guys out there to consider. All right, let's get to the champions here, right?
It's been a long time since I came around.
No thanks.
Please?
No thanks.
A little one.
Yeah, no thanks.
Start with the rares, because that's where we all start in this game for the most part. So I wanted to call out a few of my favorite rares to build fast in the early game, and then we'll kind of evolve towards the late game as we go in the video, right? So Diabola, she's going to have one of these abilities in positive charge that's going to be a reoccurring theme in today's video. We need to look out for abilities like this. They're really exceptionally good, especially when building these champions fast. What are we looking for, by the way? We're looking for turn meter increase, maybe turn meter decrease, a speed aura, speed arena aura, speed all battles aura, right? And we're looking at their base speed. So Diabolus has a few of these. She doesn't have the speed aura, but she has a very fast 110 base speed, and she's farmable in stage 12 of campaign. This positive charge fills the champion's turn meter of all allies, by 15%, decreased turn meter of all enemies by 15%. So it's not the best, but it's not bad. She also brings an increased speed on her A2. She's all about speed, and she's farmable, right? She's easy for everybody watching to get. Some of my favorite rares in addition to her are the granddaddy of speed boosters. Obviously, no speed video would be complete without Apothecary, right? He's still pretty fast for a rare at 106 base speed. He brings defense, no speed in dungeons, but still a useful dungeon aura for progression. But his claim to fame is the boon of speed. It's the big version of increased speed and on 3-turn cooldown with the turn meter increase by 15%. Obviously, turn meter increased champions, again, for beginners out there, you build them very fast and then their turn meter boosting everybody else to come closer to their speed. Ideally, the next champion that goes is going to be within 15% speed of Apothecary so that you're not interrupted. Obviously, there's ways to get around that. As we spoke, supersonic on the enemy team could cause them to disrupt you as well, so be cautious of that. But ideally, we're going to build champions within the speed boost threshold percentage of our speed booster. All right, next up is going to be the best speed booster out of any rare champion in the entire game is going to be good old Doom Screech. Where the heck are you? Doom Screech, yeah, he's not an elite champion, but man, this is an elite ability for a rare. He's one of only 2 rares in the game with a big version of increased defense and on a 3-turn cooldown. And he's got a whopping elite 30% turn meter boost. That is just insane for a rare. 30% turn meter boosts are the best in the game, right? They're exceptionally good. This is a mythical type skill, right? Very good, or mythical type turn meter boost at least, right? Doom Screech, you should all be aware, is the king of turn meter boosting when it comes to rare champions out there in the game. Nobody is close. My last mention for a rare is actually going to be Avir, the Alchemage, right? He's not super fast, but he does have this vitalizing potions on his A3. It's a turn meter fill and a heal, a nice support variation of a champion that you can build a little bit faster. He's my least favorite of the 4 in terms of not his overall kit, but just in terms of being your great speed lead, because it's just that. He doesn't bring that increased speed. He's not super fast as well. He's more of a support kind of a debuffer on your team as well, but he does bring a decreased speed, which can help kind of parlay with a turn meter boost to help you control the pace of the match. Let's go to my favorite epics, guys.
Your favorite? That's your favorite.
So the first epic that I think most players are going to max in this game is a beautiful champion to load up with your best speed gear early on in the game. It's High Katoon. We all get her for free after 30 days as a login reward. She gets speed in all battles, which we absolutely love, by 19%. She brings an increased speed and a turn meter boost, just like Apothecary on her Rally the Horde ability on her A2. And then she has decreased turn meter on her A3. So the more turn meter decrease, turn meter increase, the more speed buffs, all this stuff, it all just kind of snowballs together to be the perfect thing that we're looking for when we're looking for a champion to devote our best speed gear to, right? So High Katoon is going to be fantastic. I look at this next guy as kind of Doom Screech older brother. I don't know why, but I mean, they have the same kind of aesthetic about them, and it's Seeker, right? The bigger version of Doom Screech and the better version of Doom Screech, but they're both exceptional. He's not the fastest champion out there in the world. He does have a pretty cool passive, a pretty cool kit, but he gives a 30% turn meter boost, an increased attack to set up your nukers, and an extra turn. I used to run Seeker for a long time in this game. The first 2 years I played this game, I felt like 2019 to 2021, I was running Seeker in my best speed gear as my arena speed booster, right? I was running like a Skull Crown or something as an aura lead, right? Obviously, you want to aura lead if your speed booster doesn't have it, but you can still run somebody other than your aura lead as the fastest champion on your team. They can obviously benefit from that aura lead. Now, this is obvious stuff, but you definitely want commanding or intimidating presence for a blessing on your arena team. At least one champion to have that, to make sure that you're getting everything you can out of that aura power, right? It does make a big difference. So Seeker, arguably the best speed booster in the entire game of Raid Shadow Legends, Seeker.
I've got another confession to make.
That's right, I said it. Even better than some of the mythicals that we're going to talk about just in terms of his speed boost. Why? Because he has a 30% turn meter boost with an extra turn mechanic, which allows him to get back to it basically in 2 turns instead, so he can keep those speed boosts coming and coming and coming. It's just absolutely insane. This is why Bat Eaters, Batman, aka Seeker comps were so in vogue for years, and there really wasn't many good replacements for Seeker in those teams because of how powerful his Tailwind ability is. It allows you to go back in the A1 in the arena and maybe land a provoke and control a little bit in his A1 as well. A couple of my other favorites, I guess the third elite speed booster that we talk about for epics is going to be Deke. Obviously, Deacon Armstrong, you guys probably know him. He is the GOAT, right? He's got speed in all battles. He's going to AoE decrease defense on a 3-turn cooldown, and he has one of those 15% decrease and increase turn meters. Obviously, you need accuracy for the decrease, but then the extra turn, we just talked about it on Seeker, that allows him to get to this ability even faster, really bring the downtime of this skill down, or the uptime up. Get back to it sooner, right? So very effective champion. Fairly simple kit, but one of the best out of every epic out there in the game. A couple more of my faves. You guys should know about Golden Reaper. She's one of the best. She's raw speed. She's not the best epic in the game. She's one of the best raw speed epics in the game because she's very fast. 111 speed is elite S tier speed for an epic champion out there. She might be the fastest or one of the fastest epics in the entire game, right? She has Alacrity. Very good. It's a small tick above a High Katoon or a small tick above an Apothecary because she still has the increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown, but she has a 20% turn meter boost. Really, really solid. She also has an AoE decreased turn meter on her A2 ability if they're not under a decreased attack. So it's conditional, but it's pretty nice to have. So the Alacrity is very fast, especially on a very fast champion in Golden Reaper. I just wish she had a speed aura. That would really complete Golden Reaper, and I think we get a lot more use out of her, especially as we progress to the mid and the end game in Raid Shadow Legends. My last epic shout out, guys, is going to be a support champion who I'm a big... Actually, I have 2. I lied. I have 2. Old Hermit Jorg. He's a great one. He's got a 20% turn meter boost and an increased attack. We really love the increased attack for the arena along with our turn meter boost, similar to an Arbiter, right? It's not as powerful, but we love to have both. That way we can set up all of our attack-based nukers in the arena utilizing the speed boost as well. Having that combo is very, very powerful. Ultimate Jorg also has a 2 ally revive and an HP burn on his A1 ability. I have to give a shout out to my guy. I always talk about him here, but I feel like people don't talk about him enough, and it's Runekeeper Dazdirk. He's pretty fast at 105 base speed, and he has an increased attack and a 25% turn meter fill. So even better than an Old Hermit Jorg in terms of his boost ability and that increased attack. Man, I could go on forever, baby. I've got Gorgarab. I feel like I should give him a little shout out here because I leaned on this dude heavily in my Seeker days. I used to double turn meter boost in the arena with a Seeker and a Gorgarab. He's got that increased attack and he's got a turn meter boost by 15%. It hasn't aged that well. They've added a lot more champions to the game that have turn meter boost, but I had to give some love to the good old school Gorgarab, who also has an AoE revive. Not a great one, but it is an AoE revive, and a speed in arena battles by 23%, which is very nice to have that aura lead. I feel like back in the day, a lot of people ran a Gorgarab as their first arena lead with the turn meter boost as well on his A2 ability. Man, there's so many others out there, but those are some of my favorite epics in terms of turn meter boosters. Now, there's a lot of legendaries and some mythicals to get to as well, so let's just go rapid fire through the list here, guys. Shuzen, probably the most used in the end game. I'm talking top, 3,000 live arena right now, platinum arena. She's the most popular booster in the game right now. Shuzhen the Valorous. She's very, very good, right? There might be a couple who I'll mention who are close, but in terms of the meta, she defines the meta right now. She's got speed in arena battles by 30% on the aura. She's got a fill turn meter of all allies by 20% with the increased speed, decreased turn meter of all enemies by 20% with the decreased speed. That is lethal, and you can just build her super, super fast in your best speed gear, and then you can activate an instant turn and buff, increase attack, increase crit rate, increase crit damage, and give somebody an instant turn. That means they move at the speed of Shuzhen. So you can hand it to a Marius. That's the most annoying combo in the game right now is Shuzhen and Marius. He comes in, he kills everybody. He buffs everybody, then he kills everybody. And it all moves at the speed of Shuzhen. So many nasty combos with Shuzhen. You can hand it to, a slow block revive champion like a Blood Gorged or a Nithwi Blood Twin or somebody like that. And you can just pop somebody off, and if you can build her with 300, 400 speed, something nuts, right? There's nothing your opponent can do about it. So Shuzhen is probably the top of the class right now. Let's go with the old school Arbiter, right? I said I was going to go lightning round here, go fast, and I ended up talking for 5 minutes about Shuzhen, it felt like. Arbiter! She's got the speed aura lead. She's got the turn meter boost. She's got the increased attack, the 30% turn meter boost. Again, very, very good. That's the best. That's what we're looking for, that 30% turn meter boost with the speed lead as well, right? But the thing about Arbiter is after you open up with the A3, set everybody else up, you can also, if you want to risk it, you can come in with the Destiny's Call. This is her revive ability, but it also has a 20% turn meter boost, and you don't have to have anybody dead to use this ability. So you can get a 30% boost and then follow it up with another 20% boost if you so choose. That's Arbiter. Very good. Obviously, still to this day, one of the GOATs out there. I wanted to talk about a champion that does not have, well, I guess he does have a turn meter boost on his Seal of Magic. But I wanted to give Prince Kaimar a little bit of love. He doesn't have a turn meter boost on what you normally go in as his first ability, but is still a champion you can build super fast for different reasons. He has speed in arena battles by 30%. He was actually, I think, my second legendary after Biggin on my entire account, Prince Kaimar. And I remember being like so on the fence about this champion, which seems so silly now 5 years later, right? But opening up with the Abyssal Gaze, you're going to remove buffs, you're going to put them to sleep, you're going to CC your opponent, and then you can come in with the Seal of Magic, reset the cooldown of all of their skills, and fill their turn meter at the same time, right? He's not the fastest base speed. Oftentimes you want to use him with a speed booster going ahead of him, like an Arbiter or whomever, but you can build him super fast anyway in some of your best speed gear. So you can come in, remove the buffs, 50-50 shot at removing Stone Skin, and then CC them at the same time on the same ability. It's very, very strong. Let's talk about the more recent king of speed in some reasons, right? And this is more of a PvE champion, although I do see him sometimes in the arena, and it's Grand Oak Podrick. He's very good, very fast, 112 base speed. He's got speed in dungeons, and he has a turn meter fill of 20% with a cleanse and an increased speed. So this is, again, not the #1 most picked PvP speed booster or, all-out speed champion, but he's definitely someone you can take advantage of everywhere, and you want to build him nice and fast. He also has the passive, which will allow you, as soon as he gets a turn, to set up everybody else on the team with the buffs that they need right off of his passive. He does so much in one turn. Very, very good champion. One of the most elite champions out there in the game. Let's talk about a different type of speed booster here. We'll go back to the arena in a moment, but let's talk about a kind of a chimera category, I would say. You can use them in Hydra, other areas as well, but let's talk about these nasty speed boosters from their passives. There's 3 of them that come to mind. And Senna Amberheart is probably the queen, right? Whenever a continuous heal buff activates on an ally, fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%. She has activation on her A1 as well. It's going to fill the turn meter of all allies, and there's no cooldown. She is a turn meter filling just maniac. And she has a very fast 113 speed, and she also brings a turn meter boost of 20% with an increased speed and a continuous heal. Senna is a speed machine. We can build her fast. You don't necessarily have to use the best speed gear on your entire account, but we want to build her fast so she keeps up with the continuous heal placement, obviously, the activation, and all those turn meter boosts that come from the continuous heals. She also brings speed in all battles. So the other guy in this category, by the way, shout out to Operaden. You don't have to build him super fast. Who's the other champion I was thinking of? You don't have to build him super fast, but he does have that turn meter fill on the paternal passive, which is super powerful, especially in Chimera. But the other champion that I wanted to call out in this kind of subcategory here is Androck, right? Very fast champion. He doesn't have turn meter fill, so you don't have to use the best speed gear on him, but he also has this nasty passive where critical hits inflicted by allies fill the turn meter of all allies by 5%. What a broken, busted passive. So shout out to Androck, but again, you don't have to put him in your absolute best speed gear like the rest of these champions, the turn meter boosters who come from an actual ability on the list. Moving back into the best turn meter boosters and the best kind of control champions out there to build fast on your account, Thalia is an underrated one. Man, she's pretty nasty, honestly, guys.
I'm gonna give you 3 seconds. Exactly 3 seconds to wipe that stupid looking grin off your face, or I will gouge out your eyeballs.
She has on her A3 Aggress, if there's any buffs removed from enemies on this ability, it's 100% chance when booked to removing all buffs from all enemies. If you are going against enemies with buffs, which you usually are, it is a decreased turn meter of 20%, fill turn meter of 20%. If 5 or more buffs were removed, it's a pretty solid ability, and she's very fast. So a good speed opener if you're lacking some of the more elite meta champions that have that turn meter fill and turn meter decrease. Let's talk about the old school, the quintessential turn meter fill, turn meter decrease champion in the game, and it's the Energize ability on Lysandra. Again, she's very fast at 110 base speed. She's got the increased speed, the turn meter fill of 30%, and the turn meter reduction of 30%. This is a very powerful opening move. It's the old school, but still very good version of this increased defense, and I love that you get the increased speed on the same ability. She also can fully deplete the target's turn meter. Great turn meter control on her A2 ability. Great in against any boss like Dark Fae that's susceptible to turn meter decrease, right? Just an exceptional champion in Lysandra. Still to this day, really powerful, and you can kind of run an Arbiter into a Lysandra and just have a super fast boost going into slower nukers or control champions on your team. Let's talk about another pretty obvious one here, guys, and it's going to be Siphi, the Lost Bride. So Siphi's one of the fastest champions in the game at 114 base speed, so she's fairly easy to build super fast, right? She's amazing. Now, unlike the other champions on the list, she doesn't have the biggest turn meter boost, but she is super fast again, and she does have a 10% turn meter boost, along with 3 essential buffs: block debuffs, increased defense, and increased speed. So the fact that she's super fast, and she has the increased speed, and she has a 10% turn meter boost, makes her a chosen speed booster and super fast champion on a lot of endgame teams out there, especially if you're lucky enough to have a good speed lead on the team. The best is going to be Odin. He has a 40% speed lead in the arena with Void champions. So that's very, very endgame content, but still, he is going to be the ultimate combo for a fast Siphi. Speed in arena battles by 40% there, right? Very, very strong. So obviously Siphi is going to be amazing. Let's talk about a niche champion that really doesn't get a lot of love, but we talked about 30% being like the holy grail when we talk about speed boosts in the game. Well, check out Carolon the Ringer, right? This dude, first of all, has speed in arena battles by 30%, a great speed or lead. I would be so remiss if I did not put him on the list. He's got a 109 base speed, so very fast, and then he has this Polar Vortex, a very unique and powerful ability out there. Place a freeze on all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, fully depletes the turn meter of all enemies that receive freeze debuffs from this skill. That is super, super powerful, right? But fills the turn meter of all allies by 10% for each freeze debuff blocked or resisted by the enemy team. So, because Stone Skin is so popular right now, especially the higher that you get in the arena, this could essentially be a 20, 30, or even a 40% turn meter boost on a fast champion with a speed lead. If not, you just got great control out of this champion. So Caroline the Ringer is a super underrated and very, very good freeze, control, and speed and turn meter reduction champion in the game. Very good, very good. Very underrated. I wish I had that dude.
What do we work so hard for? To have enough money to buy...
All right, guys, let's go with kind of, she's not old school, but she feels old school. Lady Kimmy. She's like 8-way tied with the fastest champion in the game at a 115 base speed. She's very cool, right? She's got an increased speed on her A3 along with an increased accuracy, a perfect setup for bomb champions, for control champions, for lockout champions, anybody who's controlling the other team. She's a beautiful setup because she goes in there with a turn meter fill and an increased speed and an increased accuracy, and she's so fast in her own right. Whenever this champion plays a debuff on an enemy, decrease that enemy's turn meter by 5%. Whenever this champion or ally receive a debuff, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. So you have kind of a fail-safe going on with her passive in the Imperious ability as well. So very good. She can also come in and decrease target's turn meter and put a decreased speed on them with the A2 ability. So Lady Kimmy, she used to be just like one of the absolute goats. There's a lot more options now out there in the game, but Lady Kimmy is still very, very good. Do not sleep on Lady Kimmy. Let's go to one that I think is one of the more underrated champions out there, and I'm a big fan, and that's Morrigan, right? Morrigan's very cool. She put a heal reduction that can't be removed at the start of her turn. She got speed in all battles by 19%. She's stealing all buffs from a target enemy with a true fear. Very good on the A2, but she has this A3 ability. Velocimancy, duh. 100% chance to decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 20%, fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%, and then increased speed for 2 turns. So it's one of those increase, decrease with the increased speed, similar, not quite as good, but similar to a Lysandra ability on Morrigan. Let's talk about a different category of champion just for a moment here, and that is the lockouts. Obviously, we want to build them fast. Warlord, he's tough to build fast because only 100 base speed. A lot of people will choose to boost into a Warlord, right? Shout out to Alika, Alice the Wanderer, Basher. I almost said Slasher. Basher. But Warlord is still the granddaddy of all the lockouts. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance to put all their target skills on cooldown, and then a 60% chance when booked to fully deplete each target's turn meter. This is a very powerful ability. He might not have your best speed gear on him necessarily compared to the other champions we talk about, but he can certainly have a lot of speed and accuracy. He is a champion that perception fits well in. Obviously, Stone Skin comboed with it works very well as well, but there's a few other lockouts that we have to mention, right? Crixia, she's a mythical. She's hard to get. 110 base speed. She comes in there and attacks all enemies, removes all their buffs, and increases the cooldown of all of their skills by 3 turns. Very good to have fast. There's a few different ways to build these champions, especially a Yumeko. A lot of people build her with very high resist, so she goes a little bit after the enemy team, and then she can lock them out still, but she can also reset the cooldowns of your allies after they've been locked out. But you can build her super fast as well. Very fast Yumekos can go in and control the match, decreasing the cooldown of all enemy skills. So lockout champions can certainly be built very, very fast in the game. All right, guys, let's talk about a PvE superstar. One of the fastest champions out there in the game in terms of what he can do with speed manipulation. That's Nekmo Thaar. I say manipulation because he has an AoE decreased speed on his A2 ability, and then he has the speed weirding. It's nasty. It's an increased speed, and a turn meter fill of 30% and an extra turn, right? With the decreased speed, he's probably the best kind of speed control for Chimera and Trials. He brings a decreased attack, a leech, a decreased speed, and then when you add the Rune of Haste and the speed aura, it really does become the trifecta in terms of speed options and potential in this champion. Fills his champion's turn meter by 5% each time a debuff on an enemy is removed, transferred, or expires. So you're getting him back to that A3 faster and faster and faster with the extra turn and with the Rune of Haste and with the speed aura in all battles by 19%. So Nekmo, I mean, I couldn't make a speed video without talking about my boy Nekmo Thaar. Quick little honorable mention. She's not my favorite speed booster in the game, but Kasha the Rai is very fast. And she has a fill the turn meter of all allies by 20%. Not too bad. There's a lot of like fast 20%ers out there in the game. So I'm not going to mention them all, but go ahead and let me know if I've snubbed your favorite. Even a champion like Freya, she's not going to be your main speed, like the fastest speed gear on your account, but a 110 base speed with a turn meter fill and a cleanse. It's very nice, but usually cleansers, we don't want them to be like 400 speed or something nasty, ridiculous like that, right? Because oftentimes, we don't want just the turn meter boost. We'd ideally like to maybe cleanse a debuff in case we don't go first. In her case, she does bring the block debuffs too, which is super valuable. But man, Freya is very, very good. So good, it's just annoying. When we talk about the daddy of control, we got to talk about Armons. Obviously, a great option to put in your best or second best speed gear. Again, oftentimes we're boosting into an Armons, but a champion with a speed aura, with a 108 base speed, with an AoE steal turn meter and a stun and a sheep that can't be blocked. Yeah, man, I mean, you guys know Armons, right? I mean, I couldn't make this video without including Armons on the list, right? Let me give a couple other shout outs before I'm saving probably the best for last here, guys. But let me do a few other, not shout outs, but like really legit awesome champions. Estrid's probably one of the most underrated champions in the game. I truly believe that. She has a 115 base speed. That makes her one of the fastest champions in all of Raid Shadow Legends. She has a speed in arena battles by 28%, a great speed or a lead. She has an increased speed, an increased attack, a turn meter fill by 15%, and then an extra turn where you come in with the A2, you attack all the enemies, you place a decreased speed, you place a weaken, and you reduce their turn meter by 15%. So it's not on the same skill, but it's an extra turn. You gotta be careful with Sheep and Polymorph, but man, in one turn with Estrid, and one of the fastest champions in the entire game, with a speed lead, we get the increased speed, the increased attack, the turn meter fill, the decreased speed, the weaken, and the turn meter decrease. That's a lot. That's a lot. She is really incredible.
I'm gonna kill her in her sleep.
Okay, let's talk about one last shout out and two of the best. One last shout out is going to be, I don't use this champion a ton, but I can't deny she's pretty compelling, and that is Oella. Oella has a 110 base speed. She got a nice 30% turn meter fill. She brings increased resistance, which is a little bit niche, but it's nice to have on the same ability. But she can be a pretty competent booster, especially if you're lacking some of the other champions that we mentioned on the list. No speed aura, but again, she has some of those check boxes that we look for in champions that we want to build very fast. All right, two of the best. Lazarius. Man, the Rift's Gaze. This is a turn meter increase 20%, turn meter decrease by 20%, increase attack and strengthen on my man Lazarius, and he has a 115 base speed with a speed in all battles by 25%, and he does a billion other just OP things. So yeah, I mean, Lazarius is a nuker, a controller, a just everything in one, a reviver, a support, a buffer, a debuffer. He's got everything. He's kind of tricky to build because you want everything out of this dude, but I would recommend everybody build him fast. Take advantage of this amazing Rift's Gaze ability. Let's talk about arguably the best turn meter booster in the game, Arbias the Stone Thorn. Again, like Lazarius, she's fast. 115 base speed. That's 3 in a row. Estrid, Lazarius, and Arbias. 25 speed aura. Did I already say that? But this Harmonious Whisper is busted. It's the 30% increase or turn meter rather, an increased attack and the increased accuracy. Ooh, that's nasty to get all of that in one ability with that juicy turn meter fill. The increased attack and increased accuracy, again, are two of those essential debuffs that buffs rather, that we really want to see on our Go First champions. Set everybody else up with what they need, right? So there it is, guys. That is my list of champions that I would recommend building super, super fast. The best speed boosters, the speed leads in the game. I'm sure I forgot some of the faster champions out there in the game. Let me know who I snubbed. Let me know who you use on today's list. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, take care, guys.